If your horse doesn't travel or compete, should you still continue to vaccinate them against flu?
This is an understandable question. And I think this is really about risk assessment for your own horse. And if you are in a yard where every other horse is going out and competing, you can't be sure that they're not bringing it back with them. Even if they are vaccinated, as I've said before, these horses are still able to carry virus and bring it back to your horse. If your horse is completely naive, we know they show more severe clinical signs, and that's the bit you're trying to protect. Also, if you have your horse and you say it's on its own, but you know you have horses 2 or 3 fields away, you can't be sure that they also don't have it. And in the right warm winds that we're having at the moment, that can definitely travel over and expose your horse. So I think it is your obviously within your own risk, but it is a possibility that your horse will be exposed without you trying, and you don't know what other horses are moving around and coming past you all the time.
If your horse has had a bad reaction to vaccination in the past, should you continue to vaccinate? And if so, is there anything you can do to lessen the reaction?
Yes, absolutely. Most vaccination reactions are pretty mild. You might get a sore neck. So generally vaccines are put into the neck muscles, and they can get a bit of soreness there, that don't want to put their head down. It can look like they're not eating, but actually if you palpate the neck, it just feels a little bit sore and hot. So they may be a bit quiet for a day or two after that. And those sorts of vaccine reactions don't tend to happen every time, although some horses will. In those cases, you could ask your vet to either put it in a different location, either in the chest, is in the pectoral muscles. Another option is to use a different type of vaccine. There's a couple of brands, but generally it's more that individual injection as opposed to the actual immunization itself that has caused the soreness and the muscle soreness in that reaction. Obviously, if they are sore, you could ask your vet the next day to give some anti-inflammatories and that sort of thing, but we wouldn't tend to give it at the same time. Even if we knew that horse every time had a reaction, we wouldn't say, here's some anti-inflammatories at the same time. We just wait to see what happened, because generally we do consider this to be a one-off occasion, even though you do tend to see it. There is obviously the other type of vaccine, genuine reaction of anaphylaxis. And in that case, once they've got over that initial complication, you might definitely think about swapping to a different strain of vaccine if you thought that was the immunization itself that they had reacted to. So I think vaccinating really does still outweigh these mild reactions that you tend to get. And I know some of them can seem quite sore in that moment, but they do tend to get over them pretty quickly. It usually only lasts a couple of days with a bit of TLC and cold packing and anti-inflammatories.
How soon should you compete your horse after they've been vaccinated?
So I think this depends on your level of competition, really. And there are governing body ones. As a general rule, the FEI and Pony Club is not within 7 days of vaccination to entering the premises. BHA has its own rules, so as well, which is a week from, so you could vaccinate on Saturday, race the next Saturday. But aside from the rules, it's really how you know your horse again reacts to it. Horses can feel a bit off or a bit quiet after a vaccine, so it's sensible not to plan a big lesson the next day, especially if you know that they do tend to get sore, to look after them in those few days afterwards. But generally that is more relying on your governing body and how you compete to check before you go.
What steps should be taken with new arrivals on the yard to reduce the risk of a disease outbreak?
This then comes back to that incubation period, and knowing that in that first wave of any virus that you could see a horse that's producing virus but actually not yet showing any clinical signs. So it's really important to get them isolated first when horses arrive, so that they are in a 2-week window where they can produce virus, possibly get sick, be in their own space and recover. And then they are able to move into the yard knowing that after 2 weeks they're not shedding. And then I think the other really important part on this is checking the vaccination status of all horses that arrive with the passport before they unload. because you can be told, oh, well, I think he maybe had it recently, but you don't know. And at least you know when you're isolating that horse that they are then it's even slightly higher risk, and how to mitigate that and keeping them definitely separate from the rest of your group. You can test them. So you can have horses arrive with a nasopharyngeal swab result, but that negative test is really only that moment in time. And then again, if we think about the peak of them shedding, it could either be in the peak before, once they've started shedding, once they've started replicating virus, but not actually showing any overt clinical signs, or it can be in the bit after where it's just dropped below the testable levels, but still still technically shedding. So they're the ones that a negative test doesn't necessarily mean that you are absolutely safe to mix that horse with yours.